and welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast, number 2572. I am your host, Helen Brahms. I am the lead genealogist for Your Family Tree Detective, and welcome. Today we are going to be talking about where was your family when they joined their local church. Now, please, in a lot of smaller communities, they had a local church, but I know there are other religions out there where there were synagogues, temples, mosques, and all of that may not have been in the local area, but could have been in the greater area. So depending on where your family was, what their religion was, as to what church that they went to. So we're using church as a very loose term for, for new communities that were setting up. Church was one of the major meeting places in town. They had a town meeting, you met at the church. If you didn't have a church, you met at the local pub or bar or saloon. And the saloon double dutied as school, as church, as town hall meetings, inquests into death, coroners, all sorts of things, became a community center. Then when they got the church, some of those duties moved over to the church, and leaving the saloon a little freer with their time. So schools may have been moved into the church. The Sunday services were now moved into the church. Marriages, baptisms and funerals were all moved to the church out of the saloon or the pub or the bar, whatever you want to call it. And so at the beginning, when Newtown set up, church wasn't always the first one done. It was normally a bar or saloon, and that became the main place for everybody's meeting. After a church was built, most of the stuff from the saloon moved over there. So just keep that in mind. So I do recognize that there are other religions, but in the small town communities, as they were starting, a lot of times it was the church that was there. What the religion of the church was, I don't know. I'm not there. Some small communities end up with two churches, a Catholic one and a Protestant one. But I think most of them at the time were, I'd have to go back and research the history, but I have a feeling that most of the times when there was one church, it was non-denominational. For many of our ancestors, the local church was much more than a place they visited once a week. It was often the very heart of family and community life. Joining a church may have happened when the family moved into a new town or village after a marriage, or because generations of family had already worshipped there. In smaller communities, the church might have been one of the first places newcomers met their neighbors and began putting down roots. Church life could become woven into families' everyday routine. There were Sunday services, Sunday school, choir practice, weddings, baptisms, christenings, confirmations, funerals, holiday celebrations, community dinners, fundraising events, and social gatherings. Children grew up together, friendships were formed, and families often supported one another through life celebrations in difficult times. People also contributed to their church communities in different ways. Someone may have sung in the choir, played the organ or the piano if they had one of those in that time, taught Sunday school, arranged flowers, maintained the grounds, organized events, prepared food, served on committees, volunteered whenever an extra pair of hands was needed. Those details can tell us a great deal about someone's personality and the role they played within their community. Also to remember that a lot of times when you're looking at their records, hang on, we're coming up on records in a minute, so we'll talk about that then. For family historians, churches can also be a wonderful source of information. Long before governments kept comprehensive records, churches recorded baptisms, marriages, burials, and other important events. And sometimes on the baptismal record, you will find the birth date. They have handwritten in the birth date of the child. They may be getting baptized on their 5th birthday, or they're already 6 when they get baptized. They may have been 10. They may have been a few weeks old or a few days old. And a lot of times with outlying families that weren't close to the churches and stuff, it was a trek for them to get to a church. So sometimes they might have had 3 or 4 kids, and then they decided to do a trek to the local church to get everybody baptized or christened, depending on what the records were. And there might have been recorded all the ages of the children, like when their birthday was. Membership rolls, newsletters, photographs, anniversary books, some cemetery records, and meeting minutes may contain names and stories that don't appear anywhere else. But don't stop with the records. Ask about the memories. What was the Sunday morning like in their household? Did everyone dress in their best clothes? I know when I was growing up and we went to church, we had our Sunday best that we put on. Now we go to church in jeans and t-shirt and sweatshirts. It was kind of fun going in and thinking, this is kind of nice. Did they walk to church? Because that was about the only time I ever wore a dress that was not a school uniform. Did they walk to church or pile into the family car? Where did they sit? Like, did they have assigned seating? Was there a minister everyone remembered? Did the family stay afterwards to talk with friends? Were there church picnics, concerts, Christmas celebrations, or other traditions everyone looked forward to? Also, too, if you were like new in the community, one of your first visitors may be the local pastor for the church, coming in to welcome you to the community and let you know about Sunday services. And they may come before the welcoming committee of the town, where they come in with a basket of goodies and that sort of thing. So you never know. He could have been the first one to contact you. He may come with the welcoming committee, or he may come after the welcoming committee. You may also discover that several generations attended the same church. Perhaps your grandparents were married at the same altar where their children were later baptized. Family funerals may have been held there. A building that looks just like another church today may have witnessed some of the most important moments in a family's history. When we went up to Palmerston North a few weeks ago, I said, Mum and Dad, I wanted to go see the church they got married, and they said it doesn't exist. I said, what do you mean? They said they knocked it down. I was like, well, that kind of sucks. And if my understanding is correct, that is the church that my grandparents worshipped in, along with my mum and her sisters. And that was the one that she eventually got married to my dad in. And years later, it got knocked down. Sometime in the 30 years I was in the States, it got knocked down, and now there's something else over it. So I was like, well, that's kind of a bummer. There's been churches that I have been in where there are generations of one family in that church. You'll go there and grandma will be there. Grandma and granddad will be attending the church along with their children and their spouses and their children, and the grandchildren and that sort of stuff. In the church I go to right now, we have 4 generations in the one church. Now, they haven't always been there. They have come in over the time, but right now they're there. You get 4 generations coming in on some Sundays. So it's kind of cool to see that coming in. And I love when the little kids come in, and they're not shy about walking around and talking to people. But you do have those churches that have had generations of families in that same church, because they're in that community. They've all grown up in that community, and they all go to the same church. So your family tree challenge today is choose a church connected to your family. And again, this could be a temple, a synagogue, a mosque. Use church as whatever the church building represents for your religion. So choose a church connected to your family and discover its story. Who in your family attended? When did they join? Why did they choose that church? What roles did they have within the congregation? Look for photographs, certificates, church registers, newsletters, anniversary books, and other records. Then ask relatives what they remember about the people, the traditions, the friendships, and events connected to that church. Sometimes researching the place where our families gathered helps us discover stories that names and dates alone could not tell us. And when you are in there, you may even discover other family members in there that you didn't know existed at that time. So let us know in the comments below about some of the stories that you uncover. And with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling day, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow.